refuses to relent in Ukraine. A Utah entrepreneur and his foundation have launched a humanitarian mission that will take a group right into the war zone.
News specialist Andrew Adams met up with them in Provo as they were loading up to take off.
And we're bringing $1 million worth of medical supplies. A lot of it is trauma kits, defibrillators, and tourniquets.
So my very first time coming to any Chris Crone event was the last investor club right before, a couple months before the Ukrainian mission. And I was sitting there and they were watching the promo video, and I'd heard about the previous trip. I'm friends with some of the people who went the first time, and I'd heard some of the stuff and how intense it was and the unknown. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy they went, right? And then when I was in the investors club, I was watching the video. I was doing pretty good watching the whole video, even when they showed the video of those mothers and fathers and real civilians who were half buried in a trench that they saw on their first trip. I mean, these are people that looked like you and I. They had coats on as if I walked outside, and now there's a trench with bodies. And then even that, I'm like, whoa, that's intense. And then they switched to all the orphanages. And they're showing all these little kids without parents. And who knows that technically some of those parents could have been those kids' parents. And I was doing great, keeping myself all tight and under control, and then they start showing these little kids, and I don't know if it's Chris Crone or someone else hands this little girl a bear, and I just start bawling. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Because I have 5 kids. And so then I start empathizing, right? It'd be one thing to lose an adult, but to have one of my kids be without a parent, all of a sudden I'm just like, really having a hard time. And then they start talking about going on this trip, and I've done a lot of things in my life, and I semi-retired way too young, kind of got off track a little bit. And during this process, I'm kind of on a journey where I was wanting more than money. And so I text my wife and I go, how do you feel about me donating $100,000 for the Ukraine? And her response a few minutes later was, donate to donate or donate and go? And I said, yes, both. And it was beautiful for us because she said, so she took a few minutes and she sent a text back. She goes, if it'll light you up, I've got your back. And that was, I'm like, wow. I'm like, I expected a little more back and forth on this. And I'm like, wow, that was amazing. So a little bit later, I called her up and we had the most beautiful discussion because I was really wanting, A, to give back, but B, I also wanted something more than just a project for money. Does that make sense? Something more than another dollar amount.
We serve a purpose, I myself, something very important to me. And when I see donors, because we take donors with us to the front lines.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I took a satellite GPS text Garmin with me, so even if I didn't have my cell phone, I could still send messages to my wife. And at some point, she was talking to a mentor of hers who went on the first mission, and he asked her, where are they at? And she goes, so did you guys go all the way to Kyiv? And I made a stupid reply. I laughed and I said, ha ha. I go, oh, we're so far past Kyiv, that's like Disneyland compared to where we're at. Feels like we were abandoned, the people that are showing up, and the Ukrainians are like, come on, like, you'll see the signs where they're like, America, help us. And I don't care about the politics, because there's people that are suffering.
Is there anyone here that feels like they could help find a way to pull a little weight, make some asks, raise a little bit of cash?
I think if we were to show some of what we just did yesterday to people, I think a lot of people would donate. 3 people, they get how many in line?
Sure. They get, I think it's 8.
It's for raising money.
Yeah. You know, like there can be like, oh, this, that, and the other, and there's these conspiracies, and there's this justification, but there are real people just like us that are suffering from this, that are stuck, that are shot, that get hit with shrapnel. I don't think people realize that it's not like the U.S. where they join the military. This is a guy from the coffee shop who's 25, a guy at the office who's 35, who basically goes with 1 to 3 days of training from guys that aren't trained up to the front line. And these groups we're working with, not only do they do extractions, but they also will train, they'll actually train these Ukrainians for 5 days, and their chances of dying goes from 70% down to 30% in 5 days. I mean, you want a sobering conversation, sits next to a general who lost 30% of his guys the last time he went out, or 70% of his guys the last time he went out.
So you hear that right now? That's the artillery fire going back and forth in the background. There's a group of 11 that are trying to get out south of us, and their house is literally right on the border of where there's indirect fire coming in. So they're desperate for evac to get out of there.
Vehicle ready.
Sit down with my wife and tell these stories and show these some of the stuff I didn't tell them because I didn't want her to worry so much in person when she could yell at me and beautifully like say, "Are you nuts?" But also to sit down with the kids and go over these and share how precious life is and to make a difference. There's a lot of problems we have in America that really aren't problems. It's because we have so much free time. Right? Like, it's amazing how many problems go away when you don't have free time or you're wondering where your next meal is. So to be able to share what other people are going through and to share those photos and the different video snippets with the kids was very helpful to give them some perspective. If it wasn't so dangerous, I would love to send all my teenagers and the ones that will become teenagers on an experience like that. But it's probably a little bit safer to do an orphanage trip to South America than to go to Ukraine and drive over to cities that Russia claims are now theirs. So,
An art school, I got a picture of it. It was the Happy Art School. A missile or artillery hit next to the building and just blew out the entire wall. And they showed us a factory just a half a block down where yesterday at 6 p.m. a shell hit it and the windows were blown out and broken. It's very surreal to see all this city empty, and then these people who are still around at the supply drops, just they're staying around helping the people who have stayed. So talking to Andy, he tells us their estimate is 20% of people have stayed, and it's usually just some of the elderly population who just have nowhere else to go and don't want to leave, and this is their home. So it's been a very unique experience.
So to show up and to do more, because I could have donated more and been very comfortable at home. But what legacy is more powerful than money? It's example.
I personally came on this mission to ensure that every dollar raised turned into the supplies and the equipment that could personally be handed off to verify that all the good that we wanted to do happened. And that's what's taken place. But this is just the first phase of a really long mission. The next phase is going to be more dangerous, and there are more people that need more help. We've now met the people, we've made the connections, and we're ready to put in motion the next level of freedom that we know these people need, they're searching for, they're fighting for. And I'm inviting you to take a stand with me and a whole bunch of other brave souls, either by committing funds or by perhaps even coming on mission or just even spreading the word. It's not enough to sit at home, watch the media, and wish something better or complain about the politics, but do nothing. Stand with me. Rise with me. Let's help these people liberate themselves and find the freedom that they deserve.